Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. The escape of the boa constrictor earned Harry his longest ever punishment. Harry was glad school was over, but there was no escaping Dudley's gang, who visited the house every single day. The rest of them were all quite happy to join in Dudley's favorite sport, Harry hunting. This was why Harry spent as much time as possible out of the house, wandering around and thinking about the end of the holidays, where he could see a tiny ray of hope. Harry, on the other hand, was going to Stonewall High, the local comprehensive. They stuffed people's heads down the toilet first day at Stonewall, he told Harry. No thanks, said Harry. One day in July, Aunt Petunia took Dudley to London to buy his Smeltings uniform, leaving Harry at Mrs. Figg's. She let Harry watch television and gave him a bit of chocolate cake that tasted as though she'd had it for several years. Harry didn't trust himself to speak. There was a horrible smell in the kitchen next morning when Harry went in for breakfast. Harry looked in the bowl again. Harry seriously doubted this, but thought it best not to argue. Dudley and Uncle Vernon came in, both with wrinkled noses because of the smell from Harry's new uniform. Make Harry get it. Get the post, Harry. Harry dodged the smelting stick and went to get the post. 3 things lay on the doormat. A postcard from Uncle Vernon's sister Marge, who was holidaying on the Isle of Wight, a brown envelope that looked like a bill, and a letter for Harry. Harry picked it up and stared at it, his heart twanging like a giant elastic band. Turning the envelope over, his hand trembling, Harry saw a purple wax seal bearing a coat of arms, a lion, an eagle, a badger, and a snake surrounding a large letter H. Harry went back to the kitchen, still staring at his letter. Dad, Harry's got something. Harry was on the point of unfolding his letter, which was written on the same heavy parchment as the envelope, when it was jerked sharply out of his hand by Uncle Vernon. That's mine, said Harry, trying to snatch it back. They stared at each other, seeming to have forgotten that Harry and Dudley were still in the room. I want to read it, said Harry furiously, as it's mine. Harry didn't move. Out, roared Uncle Vernon, and he took both Harry and Dudley by the scruffs of their necks and threw them into the hall, slamming the kitchen door behind them. Harry and Dudley promptly had a furious but silent fight over who would listen at the keyhole. Dudley won, so Harry, his glasses dangling from one ear, lay flat on his stomach to listen at the crack between door and floor. Harry could see Uncle Vernon's shiny black shoes pacing up and down the kitchen. That evening, when he got back from work, Uncle Vernon did something he'd never done before. He visited Harry in his cupboard. Where's my letter? Said Harry the moment Uncle Vernon had squeezed through the door. It was not a mistake, said Harry angrily. Yes, Harry, about this cupboard. Why? Said Harry. It only took Harry 1 trip upstairs to move everything he owned from the cupboard to this room. Harry sighed and stretched out on the bed. Harry was thinking about this time yesterday and bitterly wishing he'd opened the letter in the hall. When the post arrived, Uncle Vernon, who seemed to be trying to be nice to Harry, made Dudley go and get it. With a strangled cry, Uncle Vernon leapt from his seat and ran down the hall, Harry right behind him. Uncle Vernon had to wrestle Dudley to the ground to get the letter from him, which was made difficult by the fact that Harry had grabbed Uncle Vernon around the neck from behind. After a minute of confused fighting, in which everyone got hit a lot by the smelting stick, Uncle Vernon straightened up, gasping for breath, with Harry's letter clutched in his hand. Go to your your bedroom, he wheezed at Harry. Harry walked round and round his new room. Harry turned it off quickly and dressed silently. Harry leapt into the air. He'd trodden on something big and squashy on the doormat, something alive. Lights clicked on upstairs, and to his horror, Harry realized that the big squashy something had been his uncle's face. Uncle Vernon had been lying at the foot of the front door in a sleeping bag, clearly making sure that Harry didn't do exactly what he'd been trying to do. He shouted at Harry for about half an hour, and then told him to go and make a cup of tea. Harry shuffled miserably off into the kitchen, and by the time he got back, the post had arrived right into Uncle Vernon's lap. Harry could see 3 letters addressed in green ink. On Friday, no fewer than 12 letters arrived for Harry. 24 letters to Harry found their way into the house, rolled up and hidden inside each of the 24 eggs that their very confused milkman had handed Aunt Petunia through the living room window. "Who on earth wants to talk to you this badly?" Dudley asked Harry in amazement. The Dursleys ducked, but Harry leapt into the air trying to catch one. Uncle Vernon seized Harry around the waist and threw him into the hall. Dudley and Harry shared a room with twin beds and damp, musty sheets. Dudley snored, but Harry stayed awake, sitting on the windowsill, staring down at the lights of passing cars and wondering. Harry made a grab for the letter, but Uncle Vernon knocked his hand out of the way. This reminded Harry of something. If it was Monday, and you could usually count on Dudley to know the days of the week because of television, then tomorrow, Tuesday, was Harry's 11th birthday. Harry privately agreed, though the thought didn't cheer him up at all. She and Uncle Vernon went off to the lumpy bed next door, and Harry was left to find the softest bit of floor he could and to curl up under the thinnest, most ragged blanket. Harry couldn't sleep. The lighted dial of Dudley's watch, which was dangling over the edge of the sofa on his fat wrist, told Harry he'd be 11 in 10 minutes' time. Harry heard something creak outside. The whole shack shivered, and Harry sat bolt upright, staring at the door.